Yo guys, Master D here, and welcome back to my top 20 favorite Zelda Dungeons of all time. And now, continuing where we left off. Enjoy. Number 10, we have the Tower of Hera from A Link Between Worlds. Now, before I go on, I will bring up, yes, I have played A Link to the Past, but no, I have not completed it. I've only gotten to the 4th Dark World dungeon and rage quit because I couldn't beat the Helmasaur King. But I am thinking about playing it again and trying to beat it this time. And so yes, I have experienced the Tower of Hera in that one. And I will say I like the A Link Between Worlds version of Tower of Hera better. One, because I like how you can actually travel outside. Like, it just has more atmosphere. Like, you can actually travel on the outside of the dungeon as well, so I guess that, yeah, to me that just gives it more atmosphere. And well, the battle with Moldorm in A Link Between Worlds is a lot better than, a lot more enjoyable, much better, less stressful than the one than Moldorm in A Link to the Past. So I actually gotta say the Tower of Hera in A Link to the Past was good, but I kind of think Tower of Hera in A Link Between Worlds is better out of the two. So, and the only thing I didn't really like about the Link Between Worlds Tower of Hera was those smiley face platforms that you have to hit with your hammer in order to jump up. I didn't like those, but other than that, though, the A Link Between Worlds Tower of Hera was good. So yeah. Number 9, we have the Snow Peak Ruins from Twilight Princess. Now, I want to throw out here, I really don't think Twilight Princess deserves, the hate it's getting from some people. Twilight Princess is actually one of my favorite Zelda games of all time. I love Twilight Princess. I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I just wanted to say Twilight Princess is not as bad of a game as people claim it to be. It is actually a really good game, and it's worth playing. So, don't listen to what anyone says. Listen to me. I'm just kidding. But still, it's worth playing. But anyways, on the topic of this dungeon, the way you get to this dungeon is pretty cool. You meet a Yeti on top of a mountain, and you get to snowboard to this old abandoned mansion in the middle of the mountains. And once you get in, it's a pretty change of what you usually do in dungeons. You gotta meet up with Yetta, the female Yeti, and Yeto's the male. But you meet up with Yetta. She's sick because of the mirror shard, and you're basically trying to find the room key, and she pretty much misleads you the first 2 times. And, well, the second time you get misled, you get one of the best items ever, the ball and chain. I loved that item. And you fight a pretty good mini-boss, but he was pretty difficult at first. And, well, and like I said with previous dungeons on this list, I love the whole idea of going inside and outside. I love that. And the boss with Blizzetta, I'm not gonna lie, the cutscene pretty surprised me. It didn't creep me out, but it surprised me because I did not expect her to turn evil and go, Aah! But, it was a pretty good boss fight. And the dungeon was overall pretty good. So, yeah. Number 8, we have yet another Twilight Princess dungeon. This one is the Temple of Time. Yep, you heard correctly. The Temple of Time from Ocarina... Well, not exactly from Ocarina of Time, but... Well, they brought the Temple of Time back from Ocarina of Time. But this time, it's a straight-up dungeon. I mean, when you first enter the entrance of the dungeon, I mean, you will hear that classic Temple of Time. They even use the classic Temple of Time theme from Ocarina of Time when you enter the main entrance of the dungeon, but when you actually start the dungeon, the music changes. But yeah, but still pretty cool, and it kind of looks almost the main entrance of the dungeon actually looks like the actual Temple of Time from Ocarina of Time in a way. But yeah, anyways, the dungeon itself, it is linear, but it's fun. I mean, there's fun enemies, puzzles. Puzzles aren't too bad. I mean, and I like the Dominion Rod. I mean, it's underused, but I liked using that, controlling that statue and just smashing things. I love that. And the mini boss was a Dark Nut, better than the one from Wind Waker in the Tower of the Gods, because he's much more beefed up and tough. He's a lot tougher, more of a challenge. And the boss with Arm Goma was, oh my gosh, that boss gave me trouble when I first faced it. But, you know, after beating it, it was pretty fun, and the ending part of that battle was actually hilarious. So, yeah. Temple of Time. Oh, yes. And one more thing I gotta say about this dungeon. Nostalgia. Enough said. Number 7. We have the Earth Temple from Wind Waker. Now, for an Earth Temple, I will say this is more like Wind Waker's Shadow Temple. I mean, it's dark, creepy, there are Redeads, Stalfos, Pose, even Floor Masters, and this blue fog that will jinx you. And so to where you can't use your weapons unless you stand in light. Now, speaking of light, this dungeon had some pretty good light puzzles, especially with Medley. And yes, you can control Medley, just like that statue in the Tower of the Gods, but, you know, this time it's much more funner because Medley's harp acts like, well, the Mirror Shield does. And yes, the Mirror Shield is an item in this dungeon, and one of my favorite items. And the light puzzles you do with Medley's harp and the Mirror Shield are actually very creative and well thought out, in my opinion. And really, the last thing I gotta say is the boss fight with Jahala. I can pretty much say the same about, kind of like the same I had to say about Bongo Bongo. It could have been better. I mean, you're fighting pretty much a fat, overweight ghost. That's not creepy. I'm sorry. But yeah, other than that, this dungeon was pretty good, and I liked it. Number 6, we have the Arbiters Grounds from Twilight Princess. Now, kind of like with Wind Waker and the Earth Temple, Arbiter's Grounds is kind of like Twilight Princess's version of the Shadow Temple, except it's also a desert temple, but desert dungeon. But yeah, this dungeon was pretty good. I mean, it had a pretty creepy environment, kind of like you're traveling inside an Egyptian's tomb, and I kind of liked that feeling. It felt like an Egyptian's tomb with all the skeletons, the Redead Knights, and the Stalfos, those little bitty skeletons, Stalfos, the Redead Knights. And it even made a reference to the Forest Temple in Ocarina of Time with the 4 Pose, and I like that. Yeah, and that was pretty good. It was a pretty creepy dungeon. The mini-boss looked absolutely creepy. And the spinner is a fun item. Too bad it's underused. And Stellord was actually a fun boss as well. So, yeah, I mean, this dungeon was pretty fun, and I loved it. That's about it for this one. Well, guys, I hate to say this, but we are unable to finish the top 20 on this part. But don't worry, because I know for a fact that we will finish this list in part 4, because that is where I will announce the top 5 dungeons. So, yeah, for a fact, part 4 is the final part. So, tune into that. See you in part 4. The final part. For real this time.